Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Scott Clark. Feeling good today, Dave? You look a little weathered today coming in. It's an early morning banter that we're having together. And I got issues with you.
Excellent. It's a good way to end Friday. Yeah, a good way to start a Friday.
We have a good podcast coming up. Adam Dennis joins us. I really, really like Adam Dennis. And we did billeting. We haven't in the last year. But had a great experience billeting with the North Bay Battalion. And Adam was the guy who you come into the house, he talks to you, and that there'd be an interview at the end. It's like, what could we do better as a team? It's one of those situations where it's really interesting that the team has to, there's all these, like a general manager has to balance all these different things with the operations of the team, but also just the personalities of the multiple billets that you have too, right? Because as soon as you become a billet, you're like, now you're part of the team, right? And everybody has an opinion when it comes to how it's done and what the kids should be doing. And like, God bless him. Like I'm sure we provided very little feedback, but I'm sure there's many billet families that provide lots of feedback.
It must be amazing trying to be involved with something like that, because the corporate nature of hockey these days, the pressure the kids are under, the how fast that they're projected into trying to be mature, and being involved with a sport that is violent, and trying not to be too violent.
Yeah,
it's
and probably the biggest thing
dichotomy.
Is the parents, like not the billet parents, but the actual parents. They're the ones that I'm sure I've never talked to him about it, but I'm sure he spends so much time dealing with parents because first of all, you have to recruit the kids, and then you have to deal with the coaching parents, right? They're going to give feedback about how their kids should be playing, when they should be playing. Well,
there's that balance. Like they've made major investments in this commodity of a child, right? And they're looking at professional opportunities with the millions of dollars potentially at stake for the very small percentage that make it there.
Very small percentage.
So there's a lot on the line, right?
Speaking about investments, I personally have invested in this community for 30 years, been a taxpayer. And so my investment, I want to make sure that my investment is looked after. So I'm a big cheerleader of every council that gets in. And I want to support them. So I actually did some work in our podcast. I'm trying to think which podcast it was. It was probably a couple ago when we talked about the Harry Madigan piece. And I have to hold you to task a little bit about how you took me down a lane that was not correct, Mr. Man. And we put our mayor in a position that I think we should be doing a little retraction about what we intimated in our podcast. It probably didn't land well with the mayor. Not that he talks to us, but it probably didn't land well with the mayor. And now I know why he gets angry at you.
Well, yes, there is I have to admit that I didn't have it quite right.
But this is what we do. We got to get it right. We can't get it wrong.
Well, yeah, excellent. Actually, I feel like we need to correct the record for sure and apologize for getting it wrong. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you feel bad, but that would be way too.
Well, that'd be lying.
That would be lying. See, this is why he won't come on and talk to us. You intimated that. You came in and I'm like, and because I listened back to our podcast and then I went and looked at it, you intimated that Peter suspended the rules again and, and made his own decision in picking the citizen or the senior citizen of the year.
Yes. And what I got wrong is that he didn't.
Both of those things.
No, he didn't follow the procedural rules. He allowed her to speak and she wasn't on the agenda. That's what he was referring to, that I got confused with him suspending the procedures and him going outside the procedures. It wasn't him deciding to pick the senior of the year by himself.
But you did intimate that.
I was confused and incorrect. I was wrong. I got it wrong.
And you apologized.
And I'm sorry for that, for all the viewers and to Mayor Peter Chirico for getting it wrong.
Benny, mark that down. Dave Dale just apologized to the mayor.
But it would be a lie to feel I feel bad about it because
you should.
I feel like I'm
It's
going
too bad that you took me down that road too. I'm like, really? Peter suspended the rules?
Well, he did, though. He broke the rules by allowing her to speak. It was just that I got it wrong.
She was just
how he
saying
broke the
thank
rules
you.
and
It
what
was this
for.
lovely moment. Everybody in
that's the thing,
place
though.
gave a
Yeah.
standing ovation.
Yeah, that's
it
the
was
thing,
just,
though. Yeah.
She said, it's not me, it's everybody that around
Yeah,
me.
no, she
It's
did
not-
very well, and she deserved recognition for sure.
Absolutely,
For sure.
she does.
He made
Why
the
do you
right.
have to spoil it?
He made the right pick.
Right. But here's the other thing, that all mayors in the province have this ability to make a pick. And former mayors in North Bay they've never picked anybody to do it.
For the provincial senior.
In my recollection,
yeah.
right? In my understanding. And then so he went forward and made this pick. Which is, of course, Harriet Madigan's unbelievable. The stuff that she's done.
Obvious
right?
choice.
But some reason you have to spoil it. You have to tarnish it in some way. I watched the thing, and it was beautiful. It was like I was welling up, something that you've never experienced before, like emotions of happiness and joy.
You welled up on that? Really?
Absolutely. It was beautiful, all the work she does. And, and she was truly honored by it.
Definitely.
And
she's earned that recognition.
She had a chance to thank everybody else. It wasn't about thanking herself. It was it's everybody else.
You know
around
what?
me.
Mayor Peter Chirico was right not to restrict her from speaking and making that speech. He actually made the right decision by suspending the rules and going outside coloring outside the lines. In that moment, that's what he should have done. It was correct.
Okay, Ben.
And he should be doing that every time, like at town hall meetings when people want to ask questions. And not hiding behind the rules and not breaking them when he doesn't feel like it, but doing it when he does feel like it. I'll stand on that.
Benny, we gotta keep that clip. So every now and again, right, we just hit Mayor Chirico was right.
I'll make sure we make
it over and over. Mayor Chirico was right.
I'll make sure we make it into a short.
Okay. I encourage Mayor Chirico to break his procedural bylaws all the time for good reasons.
Okay, look at you.
When the public wants to ask questions, they should be allowed to.
So, but you just said, I encourage him to do it when it's appropriate.
Yes.
So then he does have that autonomy to do that then. But first of all, he can't. He needs the council to approve.
Yeah.
He can't do it himself.
Council should suspend their procedural bylaws when they don't make sense. And they should make amendments to make them make sense. And they should have town halls where people feel like they have a chance to really have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you. We said it in our last podcast about the
But I
town
do
hall.
hate being wrong. I do. I really do this.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just enjoying this so much.
yeah,
Let me have a sip of coffee as I just take it all in.
It's delicious, I imagine. Because it's going to make me work harder to be right. And I'm going to be working harder to be right.
So I have one other city question before we get into this interview. Did I mention Adam's awesome? Yeah. So in the interview, we talk about a fight he had that you can find it on YouTube, in the hockey series and stuff. Just because he's such a lovely guy, I can't even see him fighting. But then when he explains about the fight, he's like, he knows the guy really well. Says, "Hey, we should fight." It's like hockey's so interesting to me. It's like I would think when people fight, they're really angry with each other, but it's sort of like, yeah, this would be great if we fought right now.
It's part of the job.
Yeah, it's part of the job, and then they move on. They have a beer with each other after. I've had this in my head for a bit, and I don't quite understand it. I want to hear your take on it. So, I've been in business for 20 years now. I've seen lots of ups and downs and different things, and I still learn stuff every single day. So, here's my thought: if my business, I might be answering my own question here for a second as I start doing it. If my business is doing, let's say it's doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden I get this huge influx of business, but I have capacity for it, is that the time I raise prices? Because my question is this. I read that the city's approved an increase in bus fares. And I've been driving by that bus terminal every single day, right, for 20 years, right? And since the massive influx we've had in students over the last number of years, that bus terminal is packed. That thing is being used. Our transportation system is being used like it's never been used before. It's like, why are people standing on the side of the road? Oh, they're waiting for the bus. I haven't seen that in years. You never see people waiting for the bus. It's being used a lot. Why do you think, and I know they say, well, the prices have increased and right? Yeah, but your ridership must be through the roof compared to, let's say, 5 years ago. It would be through the roof. Is it a cash grab that they're raising the prices?
I don't think so, actually, because it's been so long since they raised the prices. Now, I'm not sure if it's at the right price or not. The market will tell you. And I haven't really seen the stats on the ridership, so it's hard to tell.
It's
anecdotally, it looks like it's more, for sure.
It's got to be. Sure. Because there was a campaign about, I think it was like 5 years ago, to encourage people to ride the bus. Like they were spending all sorts of money saying, please ride the bus. And they were spending money to...
I think I advocated for people to be able to ride the bus for free, right? And just make it part of the transportation system where people can depend on it and not have to pay a lot of money to do it. And that way, because it's not the rich people that need the bus, right? Mm-hmm. What is the fair price? I just think they went over. Can you double check, please, Ben, on the city website on the transit fare fees? But I think they're just over $3 a ride. Mm-hmm. So, and it used to matter because how much change you had to pay, but I'm not sure if a lot of it's electronic and passes.
I've never. It's terrible.
So the price points are a little bit funny now. Like I always thought that you'd want to try to keep it manageable.
Okay, so just looking at the website, effective September 1st, breakdown of the new fare. Cash fare and single trips increased by 25 cents to $3.25. Multiple fare increasing to $29.25 from $27. So that's a 10 trip. The monthly pass is going up to $93 from $86. The student monthly pass is increasing from $71 to $77. The reduced monthly pass is increasing from $61 to $66. And the day passes are up $1 to $9.
I would think a lot of the students, it comes with their tuition fees, right? You get a bus pass.
You pay for it in your...
Yeah, you pay for it in your
I have a lot of
tuition
beef
fees.
about that too.
Why is that?
Because everybody gets the bus pass, but if you have a car, you have to pay for parking there. So as a student, it was like, why? Because they're around the same value in price. Why couldn't you choose one or the other? And I know the business reason. It was just kind of annoying as a student.
Well, business reason is a cash grab.
I know. And they have to deal with the bus, but it was just as a student.
No, that's a really good point.
It was kind of annoying because I'm like,
so you have to pay for a bus pass
in your tuition.
In your tuition, you don't have a choice, right? There's all sorts of fees you pay in whatever, university, college, whatever. There's all sorts of fees. When my daughter was going to university, I would see those fees. There's all sorts of really interesting fees in there that they're grabbing. But you're right. You have to pay for a bus pass. But then if you don't want to take that, you're going to drive your own vehicle, but you have to pay for a car. So you're almost doubling up.
And I think, if I remember, this was back in 2015. I think it was $200 or $300 a year. But I also paid for like the lot up that was closer. Mm-hmm. But I still think the base one's about $200 a year.
It's such an important, I'll just say from a fiscal standpoint, I have a story about someone approached me. This was some time ago when I was an honorary colonel, and they wanted to run something by me. It's like, hey, Scott, there's a policy at the hospital currently, right? That if you're a veteran, you don't have to pay for parking, right? So I go, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And they said to me, we're thinking that we're going to change that policy. And I go, really? Yeah, it's actually, by doing that, not that it costs the hospital, but what they could be getting back in revenue was anywhere between, I think it was like between $20,000 to $40,000 a year. Like that's significant. That's just veterans. So the whole paying for parking thing is not a frill. They need money for operations, right? And it's on the backs. It's another, I guess, tax we have in society of using the facility. So if
you care for your family member, you have to pay it. If you don't, you just don't go and visit your sick loved one.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford the parking.
When Cheryl's mom was in the hospital because she was waiting for long-term care, and then, she was in the hospital. So are many seniors who are waiting for long-term care, the whole system thing, right? But you would go almost every day, right? But then they have different ones where you can go pay for a week or pay for a month, right? Which is you save money that way, but you're still paying. Every time. So I know we jumped.
It becomes
away from
cost of it.
So circling back to the buses, because transportation, I think in any city is not a moneymaker.
No.
Right? It'll always...
You subsidize it just like the arenas.
Right.
Yeah. It's a community thing.
But you don't think this is a bit of a cash grab on the backs of the many students that have come into the city?
Yeah, I guess technically it is. But necessary, maybe? The city's finances, I'd like to see them put under a bit of a microscope, this budget thing, around, and see where they're really at as far as different things. There's a lot of big infrastructures, projects. I calculate what they're paying for interest because of the change. I'd like to really take a look at the serious look at the finances for the city. So once and for all, finding out the debt level, where it's at, what we can handle, and how they're financing things like buses and arenas. Yeah.
Let's get into the interview, though. So here's an investment in the community that...
Before we do, though.
Okay,
Before we do.
How much time are we in? Sorry.
Before we do.
Yeah.
I want to encourage people to help participate in the Sportscast that we're doing.
Oh, right. Yes, you've kicked off the...
Yeah, that's what I want to encourage people to help and contribute to our Sportscast by perhaps doing a little interview with their athlete or coach on their phones. We can't get everywhere. We're not going to be able to highlight all the great athletes. So we need a little bit of contribution coming in.
That would be cool. You just do a simple interview of the coach. Tell us about the game, coach.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 minutes. That's all it takes.
And then submit it to us, and we can build a story around that, right?
Yeah, that's all we need.
That's a great idea.
And that'll help us cover more.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to try, and we're going to cover a variety of things, the boys, the girls, the different sports. But to highlight all the great little moments and the great little athletic achievements and, commentary, we'll accept contributions.
That'd be great. That. Let's see if we can make that work. We'd love.
All they have to do is send me an email, editor@northbayecho.ca, and I'll figure out a way to make the logistics work.
Perfect.
So
great idea.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Great idea. So one of the investments we make as a community is having the OHL team here. And it's proven to be such a big success. First home game was pretty well a sellout. There was tons of people there. We've been billets. We've been season ticket holders. So has many of other people in the city. And it's a absolutely terrific night out for the entire family and so much fun. So we encourage everybody to go online to the Battalion website, get tickets, go to the game, support our troops, and really excited with the announcement that Adam Dennis has now become, is it Director of Hockey Operations? Is that it? President
and Director of Hockey Operations, I believe, yeah.
Super awesome guy. Great hockey career he's had. But he's really, him and his family have really invested into this community too. And I want you to meet him. So let's get to Adam Dennis. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor.
You remember that first lunch we had at Casey's?
Casey's was the precipitous, did I use that word right?
Yes.
To the start of the Echo Network. I reached out to Dave Dale and I said, hey, do you want to have lunch? He didn't really get back to me. I said, I'll pay. He said, absolutely. And that tradition has continued. So we went, had lunch, had a great lunch, and that's really in that conversation. That's how this Echo Network started, and that's how we got rolling with it. Casey's actually Bill Steer, Backroads Bill with Ben and Backroads Bill and their podcast. I was talking to him in the parking lot, and he was saying he did a Casey's ad, and he was saying, which this is incredible, Casey's is the oldest restaurant in our city. Like the longest tenure in our city. And I go, what? So think about it. Can you think of another restaurant? Like DeMarco's is no longer here, right? Even longer than Greco's? It can't be longer than Greco's.
I double check on those.
Yeah. But Casey's has. So it's actually Jan, who's the owner of Casey's. It was her brother that started the brand out of Sudbury.
Right.
The first Casey's was in Sudbury. Then I think Prime Restaurants bought it. Then they started having franchised it. And then this was the next Casey's. And then it went all over the province. So Jan continues that tradition and also continues the tradition of absolutely delicious food, a great atmosphere to have a meal. And not only that, it's just good people that work there. You go in, you hug them, you have lunch. It's like family. So I encourage everybody, not only this weekend but anytime, pop into Casey's. I think I'm there this week, and enjoy all the fun, the food, your friends, and the people there. Casey's, potentially the longest serving restaurant in our community, but we're going to double check on that.
Yes.
And for great drinks and even better company. Casey's, one of our awesome sponsors here at the Echo Network.
Founded in 1968, Voyageur Aviation is a proud member of our community, providing worldwide aviation services from our headquarters right here in North Bay. If you're looking for a challenge, change, or want to expand your current career in aviation, Voyageur is hiring for a wide range of technical and non-technical roles, including pilots, aircraft maintenance personnel, corporate administration, machinists, supply chain professionals, and more. Be part of a workforce that is over 400 strong, supporting humanitarian, government, defense, and civil aviation operations around the world. For a career in aviation and beyond, learn more about open positions and career paths at voyav.com.
Today we have a very familiar face in North Bay, Battalion President Adam Dennis. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here.
Adam, I'd like to first learn a little bit about you. Tell us about your family first.
Yeah, so pretty modest upbringing. I grew up in Toronto. Dad has been in sales right now in the energy field, but always hustling, always working hard. My mom's been in education as a teacher, finished as a principal, still dabbling just in the supply world, but hardworking family. My parents earned everything, and they gave my brother and I everything that we could have asked for too. You know, I remember playing in every single sport. Hockey was always the passion, and when I got old enough, you know, that was really the center of my world was hockey, and you know, I really am so grateful. My parents, having them who they were, they supported it and really took me where I needed to be, and never were hard on me. It was, what color Powerade do you want after? And so I'm really grateful just for the platform that they provided. But
whereabouts in Toronto?
So we've grown up in Etobicoke. Our first house I can remember is right next to Royal York Station on Royal York Road, and then they moved to Prince Edward and Bloor kind of area. So I was a subway and a bus to school most days, but pretty cool to do that. And
You had a unique hockey experience. You were on 2 Memorial Cup teams. That's crazy.
Lucky, for sure.
And they were back to back, weren't they?
And they were big rivals too. So I got drafted, and Guelph gave me my chance in the OHL. So I graduated high school there. Grew up there. You know, when I think of our guys' OHL experience, that rookie year is really where you make a lot of core friends. And I think you remember with Josh Curry, Liam Arnsby, they're still really good buddies to this day. And it's all from that first year. But for me, Guelph was where it started. My second year there, excuse me. We had a really good team. So Dustin Brown, Dan Paye, Cam Jansen, Kevin Klein, a really good team. Marty St. Pierre was another one. London was a really good team. They finished first that year, and we were right there with them. We ended up splitting the season series 3-3. We ended up beating them in the conference finals in Game 7. to win that. And then we played the Mississauga Ice Dogs in the finals to win the OHL. We did get swept in the Memorial Cup, but Shea Weber was on Kelowna Rockets. Clark MacArthur was in Medicine Hat. It was a pretty cool experience, but it was tense rivalry. Like, I can tell you, I was very nervous when I got traded to London because there were some things said for sure in those previous games. And what was nice is Dan Girardi, I didn't mention him. He's probably played the longest out of everybody, but he was on my team in Guelph as well. We got him, I remember, from Barrie, just as almost like a throwaway. He had been injured, and he was a big part of our team in Guelph. He got traded the week before to the London Knights, and that would have been the year that they're hosting the Memorial Cup and NHL lockout, so a lot of guys that are there that wouldn't normally. I got traded the week later on trade deadline day. So London was hosting the Memorial Cup that year, so knew we were going. But star-studded team, like it was that was a different experience for me altogether, because as the goalie, just more didn't want to mess up.
Yeah,
because that team was kind of destined for some big things, and hosting the Memorial Cup, the NHL lockout, all eyes were really on London at that year, and ended up playing against Sidney Crosby in the Memorial Cup finals. And that's if anybody remembers me from hockey, we played them in the round robin, where I will say he did score. It was a broken play though; it wasn't. It was off a skate, I think. But we beat them in the finals 4-0. So
wow.
I had an assist too, so I outscored him. But no, most can't pick out the peak of their career. That was probably it for me. I'd say anybody that remembers me playing, it would have been from that team, that game, because it was one of those unique moments where everyone was watching junior hockey.
So I want to ask a question about that, because I was doing some research, and so I wonder if it's the same game. I could be wrong. February 10th, 2006, the third period, 5:25 into the period, and you got into a fight. Is
that in London?
You were in London uniform.
Yeah. And that was my second fight.
It was okay. That's the only one I saw. Tell us about, because I watched the video, and both the goalies came to the center ice, but you are the instigator. You went into his grill. What was like? It was like a bench. There was fights. They were fighting into the bench, and it was like, and all of a sudden they start coming together. And then Adam, which I just know Adam's in certain ways, like, he seems like this really chill guy, doesn't get emotional, that. You totally was into this guy's grill. What was said? And then I think you got clocked a couple of times.
Yeah, that was my first ever stitches, I think, on my face. It was my second OHL fight, and I should start by explaining the way the first one went, because it went very well for me, and I may have had an inflated ego going into fight two, but the first one was funny. It was in Peterborough, and Corey Perry got into a scrum in front. All of a sudden, Patrick Coletta's got him in a headlock, and everybody's fighting. So I had just got thrown into the game. Our other goalie had been pulled. It was a crazy night altogether. I just got into the game. I let in 2 quick goals, and then Corey Perry's and then their goalie goes in. So I had to go down right in front of the London bench. We fought, and I was able to get one, and he went down. So it was great. Yeah. And then we were at the OHL Awards, and the goalie that I got into it with, he was at the awards, and I was kind of a teenager at the time, so knocking the guy next to me, hey, did you see my fight against him this year? And then sure enough, he gets announced as the humanitarian of the year. So I should have known then. I wasn't that tough, but Justin Peters was the second fight, the one you're talking about. Yeah. And I know Justin quite well. Like, we trained in the summer. I knew what I was getting myself into. He's a great guy. And we've talked and laughed about it. And it's unfortunately shared a lot, that video. Every time he gets a promotion, I tell him that video seems to come up on Twitter. I know it's the AI. So I get asked about that video a lot. And the truth of the story was we were losing 3-0 at the time. And the way that whole thing happened was, it was a piece of equipment for one of our guys that he got into a fight or something where his equipment was down. The other team's backup goalie, and the benches were pretty much beside each other except for a spot for the camera guy. So their backup goalie goes and he reaches over to grab our piece of equipment, and he hides it, and he starts taunting the bench, and then guys on our team, they didn't like that. So start getting into it with the goalie. So here I was thinking that their backup goalie is getting tossed for sure. And Justin Peters, very good goalie, has a shutout. There's middle of the game. I said, if he gets tossed too, if you're goalie fights, it's just a wrestling match anyways. Just hold on. And he knows me, so he's not going to be too upset. And so I started talking, come on, Petey, let's go. It'll be fun. There's like, the fans are going to go crazy. Like, it's going to be a blast.
So that's part of the conversation? Like, it's like, come on.
For sure. At this point, like, I know him. Like, I trained with him in the summer. He was playing in St. Mike's before, so he would, I think it was Mind to Muscle in Toronto. We would, we'd work out in same workout groups every now and then. So I knew him, and most of the goalies, there's a bit of a rapport.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we were that pissed off, there wouldn't have been a conversation. We would have been.
Gotcha.
So he was looking. I think it was Mike Vellucci was the coach, and he keeps. I can't go. I've got a shutout. Like and like he saw the whole thing developing as I was, and looking at the coach. The coach was like, "No way, no chance. You're not going." So it was in London, and you could see the crowd on the video. So
it went nuts when you two started.
I took my helmet off without him, and I spun it at center ice.
I did. Okay, I missed that part. You spun the helmet at center ice?
Yeah, which is I can't condone. You shouldn't take your helmet off either, which is a penalty now for sure. But Justin went from a friendly conversation. He was not happy at that point, so he took off his helmet, and I saw like I might have made a mistake here, and the fight started okay, but it didn't end great for me. And thankfully, he was at that point a little bit more calm, because he probably could have done more damage at the end of it. But
So how does your experience when it comes to that last season? I'm trying to think. Was it last season DiVincenzo almost got into a fight in the playoffs?
Yeah, a couple. Dom is a fiery guy in that too. So like it's one of those things. Obviously, we don't want him to get into that, but it's if you take that away from him, it's a fire that is also helping him make all the saves that he's making too. So obviously we don't want him to. We want him to try to avoid it and take him as compliments when they're chirping or coming to do an extra slash, that they wouldn't do that if you weren't playing well.
It does feel for me, in the audience, it's like there's a different level happening when the goalies start, like they're always so calm. When the goalies start losing their losing their feces, then it's like, wow, this is getting. It's really, the intensity is pretty high.
Yeah, it's an interesting position because the rest of the team really does change based on the way the goalie's going. If they don't have the confidence that they can make a save, everybody sits back a little bit. They try and defend a little bit more. Or, if you're really confident in a guy, then there's other things. But it's kind of an unwritten. You don't touch the goalie, and if he's upset, we're all upset, and it's a funny position like that for sure.
Well, I had to go into page 3 to Google to find it. So it took me a few pages in. They say, where do you bury a dead body?
Yeah,
either page 2 or 3 of Google. Right, that's nobody will ever find it. So I found it there if you're looking for it. So your transition from there, you first of all, your save percentage, like in Guelph and London, it was incredible save percentage. Drafted by Buffalo. Tell us about that whole experience, and then how you got into the European League.
Sure. It took some time for me to get drafted. So probably similar to Dallin Wakely. Like I didn't get drafted till I was 19. So I had some success, but didn't get attention. So we won the OHL when I was 18. So that would have been my second draft year. And the goalie that was sitting on the bench got drafted. Sitting there just with my hand. I got invited to Florida's Panthers training camp there. So that was a great experience, but still kind of like, what do I got to do? Like and then ended up having a great start to the season in Guelph, but Guelph was transitioning. Like we had lost a lot of players, so younger team were hovering around 7th and 8th, and ended up getting, London was calling. So I don't know if it was just another opportunity at the Memorial Cup and getting the job done, but that was the year that I got kind of coined as a winner by like Buffalo. They loved that trait, that I was in that situation and was able to get the job done, I guess, and I ended up getting drafted. Now it was a funny thing though, because you get drafted at 19, you only have 1 year of junior eligibility, but they hold your NHL rights for 2 years. So I remember I was at my uncle's wedding. And I got a call from my agent. Good news, bad news. It's good news, you're drafted. Congratulations, I know you've wanted to for a while. The bad news is, at the time, the Sabres were a little bit, they were, let's say, they managed their money well at that time. This was a previous ownership group. And the bad news is they're cheap. They're going to hold you over the coals. So it was a bit of a process, kind of an introduction to the business of hockey at that point. And
Yeah, they don't just throw money at you, right?
No, they try and, in fact, be good with money, believe it or not, and not waste it. So we went through a lot of back and forths, and it was right after the NHL lockout. So a lot of the rookie privileges got taken away because there's no rookies at the bargaining table when you have an NHL CBA. Yeah. they're an afterthought, right? So all the bonuses for rookies got taken away. So I had a lot of accolades at the time, and I had a good junior career, but Sidney Crosby was signing for $255,000 bonus. What do you think you should get?
Yeah.
And it's an argument that when they have time on their side with the 2-year contract, I remember sitting out the first 4 games in the American League just because they were, they were doing business, and
how does that experience, and does it relate in any way, that experience with the NHL lockout and how the uncertainty and the flow has changed? Did that experience help you with some of the younger players during the COVID years? Because that was crazy for young people in their development and how they could play. And
totally.
Was there anything that you could relate to that?
Absolutely. It's you only get to control a certain number of things as a hockey player, and that's why you got to make sure that you trust your representation, that they're representing you properly. All you really want out of them is somebody that's going to bat for you and presenting the information. We find it at our level all the time because they're coming from minor hockey where you're paying. So you should have a say on where the team goes on their road trips, and you get to talk to the coach a little bit more, but they don't pay at our level, and that's a really big change. But I think with that, it's a lot of people come into our league and they've been able to dictate. They've been able to play a little bit of the role of GM, coach, and the best thing you can do at our level and beyond is be the player. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to separate because we all watch TV, we all play fantasy sports, we all, watch. In Canada, it's impossible to avoid hockey, insider trading, and all that fun stuff. So there's always people that are, forecasting, guessing. I find it hilarious the last couple of years, the rankings. Every year we seem to get no respect in the rankings, but we've been doing things the same way for, since we've taken over. And last year we had the same thing. They're losing McDonald, they're losing Petrov, they're losing yada yada yada. How are they going to be good again? And, well, there's guys that are waiting for their chance to show they're as good as those guys too. And then in comes Romani, in comes Wakely, in comes Van Steensel, who all doubled their points. So people forget that guys like Ethan Procession and Jacob Therrien, they got the same number of points as Anthony Romani at the same age. Huh. I'm not expecting 58 goals out of them. It'd be great, but those are the things that happen when you have a good program, and it gets easier the more you have close examples of that.
Is there an example of something that you learned as a player in negotiations and the business of hockey that you comes to mind when you're dealing with somebody from the other side of the table?
Yeah, I think that, you always want to try and add value in ways that you can, like on the ice is one way. But just from how I receive the information, you want people that care about, the team. And I'm always getting asked of things that you can do extra. Okay, what are you going to do for this team? So anytime that you can add value as a player, in the community, in speaking engagements, and I can't tell you how much of an impact on our impact on the community. Guys like Ty Nelson and Ty's Troops, Dallin Wakely with Wake Sakes, we've made a purpose of trying to draft really good people, and we try and avoid situations because we know that North Bay is a really tight community, and we want to get them out there. So it used to be a situation where we're assigning, you're going to the skate here, you're going there, but now it's okay, anybody want to go to this? And we don't typically have to assign anymore. So I think adding value in other ways outside of playing and being ready, because I think when you put yourself in the mind of the coach and try and get an understanding rather than be the coach, you really start to add to the team. And as long as I've played, that there's tons of different opinions on how to play, philosophies of why you do this, why you do that. But for me in hockey, the buy-in is the most important thing. And when you have everybody buying in, you have a chance at something special. And that's where internally last year's group, despite all the expert opinions, we knew that we had a lot of really good kids in our dressing room that were
Character.
Yeah, character. They would listen to us and they wanted to do it for each other.
I was kind of thinking more like something that you experienced when you were a player in negotiations or dealing with a coach, that now that you're on the other side of the table, that you recall that you deal with them differently because of the experience you had.
Yeah. I think yes and no. I mean, I think it's always, I've represented myself on a few occasions, and I think that you do have to take a different approach. Like we do still have some players that it's their mums and dads that would be the representation. So I know in the times that I did that, I was lucky that the ownership was nice because, I've just heard of some of the arbitration cases and well, I guess my experience of how I found out that I wasn't getting a second contract in the NHL, I was told the whole way up that go get surgery, you're fine, the team likes you, no problem. And then who knows what happened. Like now on this side of it, I guess that would be, there's all sorts of things that could happen that change a team's plans, and they only have a certain number of contracts, and they don't owe you the luxury of telling you why it happened. So when I'm injured and sitting on a bed and watching Sportsnet say Adam Dennis has not been qualified, it's not my job to understand that. It's just my job to be ready for the next opportunity. And I think that's where we really try to get our players to focus on the habits. Because it's easy, like, this guy's got drafted, but I have 20 more goals than him. Yeah, but you don't know why they drafted him. Like, you don't know what it is they see about them. So just focus on yourself, add to your game. Here's what we know you can get better at. As soon as you can become that really narrow focus, and because it's impossible to try and figure out what they're thinking.
Hi, I'm Natasha Laframboise, sales representative with the Laframboise Team at Realty Executives Local Group Inc. Brokerage. We are a local real estate team here in North Bay. Our team of sales representatives, Matt Laframboise, Phil Seguin, and Adam Negro, are ready to help you through the buying and selling experience. We have been providing service to the North Bay and area community for over 17 years. Our goal is to provide knowledge, support, and guidance in order to prepare your home for sale, bring it to market using multiple selling strategies, and get it sold. As a home buyer, we have 2 buyer's agents ready to help you find your home sweet home. If you'd like to know more, check us out on our website, laframboiseteam.ca. We are always happy to help.
It is interesting in my I had the ability to billet a couple of players over time, and so you get to see behind the scenes. My first impression was I was shocked how busy these young players are. So, and we had players that were outside of high school. So I can imagine if you have to, many of the kids are in high school still. So they have high school that they go to, and then they have practice and everything on top of it. So the ones that weren't in high school, they were out first thing in the morning for practice, come back for lunch, then they were back out for practice, then they were back home for dinner, and then it was they had to be in the room by like 10, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, and that was it the whole time. And then once the season starts and everything, then they're on the road. It's like there's really no time. So that was my first impression. The other thing, now your role has changed. Director of Hockey Operations, the president. You were GM for a number of years. I'm fascinated about what the GM's role is. Like, we'll get into Director of Hockey Operations. And the fascinating part is that the GM and the relationship between the GM and the coach, the head coach, because the GM does the drafting and picking of players. And I have seen it, not on this team, but I have seen, because we have relationships with other kids, how sometimes that's not always perfect. And that affects the kids. And so tell us about that relationship, the GM's relationship in how the hockey operations work.
Yeah, well, I think break it down as easy as just the simple name, general manager. You generally manage everything, right? So, and part of that is the staff in the different departments. But the best way that we have category leads, right? So like Ryan would be in charge of the coaching staff. I think John Winstanley at this point as the general manager would be in charge of the scouting, the parents, things like that. And then we have a wellness team of Andrew Satchke.
Sorry, you said something I just need to... So you said the GM is, you said parents. So if the parents want to speak, they speak to the GM. They don't speak to the coach?
Yeah, so no, they would speak to the GM. Yes,
okay.
Exactly. And then now in my new role as president and director of hockey operations, so it just based on the word again, kind of directing it. So I still very much am in charge of hockey. It's just we have category leads in a lot of areas and departments. So I'm going to be scouting. I'm going to be doing all sorts of stuff like that. But for me, when I was the general manager, and it's changed a little bit just with John being in Toronto. I'm still doing a lot of the same things, but really it's the general operations, the day-to-day of the hockey team. So making sure that you have enough bodies in camp. There's a lot of administrations with cards and registering of players, billets, trying to find billet homes for them. The drafting, the managing of your protected lists, all sorts of things like that. And then, the day-to-day, there's all sorts of little fires, like you're talking to agents, you're talking to parents. I've always taken the approach that we're dealing with 16 to 20-year-olds, so we have to open up our communication range. Like we talk to billets, as you know.
Yeah.
We talk to parents. We talk to agents because sometimes when we give the message to a young person, they take that one buzzword, you're not playing. But there is a lot of messaging that can be productive that they can do to understand why they're not playing, how they get back in. So we try to talk to a lot of people. So the general manager takes on a lot of that, like keeping relationships. I think one of the biggest things that we've done over the past couple of years is make clear that North Bay is not Thunder Bay. We're 3 hours from the GTA. We're very much in a central space that we can get around quite easily, and our travel is not an issue. So sharing that about the town, because it is a draft process, but there is people can say no, and you don't want to take somebody that's not going to show up and represent the community that doesn't do well from anything.
So with that, because my understanding, just when everybody's talking around the arena and things, like you worked really hard to get Ty Nelson here. Ty Nelson had some options, and maybe tell us about that, like because North Bay isn't London.
Yeah.
London's a big venue. It's that 401 corridor. There's lots of people that want to be on that 401 corridor. Tell us about how you bring a really quality player like that to the team.
Sure. And every team has to have their own specific things to talk about. I can say that when we were bringing in Ty, he had to take our word for it because we were brand new. Like we were coming into the pandemic. Ryan took over December before that canceled season. I was, in a place as the GM at that time as well. So really we had, we were dead last in the league. So we had to convince some people that, well, what makes you guys, why should I send my 16-year-old son up to North Bay, which I'm pretty sure is 17 hours away, and you guys are dead last. You haven't been good for a couple years. You've never been a GM. Ryan's been, he was just leaving Flint. So we had to convince a lot of people. So we went to work. Like we've always, the nice thing with Ryan and I is we've kind of grown up as a like-minded idea of how hockey should be run, and we've had similar experiences going into the pro, and we've played against each other a lot. So I think it was really easy to gel on a vision and a direction. And then we quickly just went step by step. Like when the hockey season's going, things happen. So, you're kind of, you're a victim to the schedule, right? Like there's a tournament here. Okay, I got to go. Then there's the trade deadline. Okay, so we got to really focus on that before January 10th. And now it's prioritizing going into the draft and what do we need? constant communication with Ryan and I. Charlie Abbott was one of the key pioneers on the scouting side. So he was our director of scouting. So he and I can tell you, driving in a car for 15 hours to Massachusetts to go watch Adam Fantilli too. And, Justin Ertl was on that trip as well at St. Andrews. So we spent some time with him, but bringing John Winstanley into the mix just really gave us a bigger voice in Toronto. So he's been in that scene for a while.
What specifically do you use to sell North Bay as the place to go?
Our program. I mean, I think the city becomes easy once I can just tell them what we have to offer. I think when you're looking at it from a teenager's mind, hey, we got a Starbucks, we got a mall, we got a movie theater. You're going to be able to do all the same things that you do at home. And then from a parent perspective, okay, what are we going to do on our free time? What about school? I gotta help him in school. What if he's struggling? What about this? So those are the things that we really make sure that we spend some extra detail on. And like Scott, you said earlier, they're busy throughout the day.
Yeah.
This is one thing from experience that my parents, like I said, my mom was on me about school. So I was always going to get my university degree. Not everybody has a parent in education that pushes them. So we really made it an effort to try and build a resume outside of hockey. Because when you get there and you've played hockey for 10, 12 years, nobody really cares that you scored 40 goals when you're 19. Irrelevant for your next job, that is. So how do you quantify that? How do you add to it? Public speaking, community service. We're adding, like, all of our post-secondary guys are going to be involved in something, whether it's traditional school or maybe it's a micro-credential like coaching or referee certificates. So just trying to build them up. I think it helps on the ice, but that program is really what brings the parents to let their kids come play.
We're running out of time. I have a couple of can I ask a couple of quick questions, Adam? First of all, I want to say, if you haven't had a chance to billet, contact Adam and the team, because our family has, and it's been an amazing experience. It's amazing watching these kids grow. Like Justin, we don't have Justin anymore. We had a change in our family with Cheryl's mom moving in, and so, but watching Justin evolve, and he's just a great kid and a really nice family, and we're still good friends with Josh Curry and his family. So it's a really wonderful experience. I wanted to ask you some quick questions here. I wanted to know about because it was really interesting. I actually went to Oshawa to see the last game last year, and it was really emotional.
Yeah,
it was emotional for the team. But the year before, even though maybe on paper you had a better team, it didn't feel as emotional in that loss. Why was it so emotional in that game? Like, I'd never been somewhere where the opposing team and the announcers started talking about some of the senior players that wouldn't be with the team anymore in Oshawa. It was. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to it personally. Like a lot of the guys that we had to say bye to that year were the core guys, like Liam Arnsby, Paul. I'm going to get choked up just even talking about them. They were guys that Paul Christopoulos was like minus 44 or something crazy his first year as a 16-year-old. And then the pandemic happened. And the coaching shift. I think when everything that we did from that December date, when Ryan and I were able to take over, it was okay, well, we clearly see what Paul and Liam can be. Avery Winslow, Kyle Jackson, some guys like that. We need to start prioritizing some of these guys. And, they're going to get on the power play now. They're going to get some advanced ice because we need to show them. And then we were really excited to start. COVID canceled the next year. Sorry,
the emotional of the final game in Oshawa.
So really, like some of those guys, guys like Ty Nelson, Liam Arnsby, Paul Christopoulos, like they gave us Dallin Wakely, Tanais Thurin, Owen Van Steen. So like they came to our program when we were new. Like they gave us a chance. They've listened to us. They've trusted us. They've grown big time, and it's sad not to see them the next year. So, but that was the one thing that we said to them is you do anything in life that's how you've done it right, because that you've built something right, and it sucks.
So let's talk about last year. Dom goes out on an injury. McIvor comes in. And it's like, well, there we go. We're out of the playoffs. Stood on his head. Was unbelievable. How does or I know you're at that time you're the GM, but you have some vast experience in playoffs in the OHL. were you, I know it's a team effort, but did you help in any way? That kid was exciting to watch. It was so, we were all cheering for him. It was a really exciting time.
I mean, I drafted him. But the one thing I think we all knew about Mikey is that he brings this aura about him. Mike's a confident kid. We knew he would want the moment, first of all. The only thing I can really say, like, because I do enjoy talking to the goalies, but Mike, the last weekend of the season, we had a chance to win the conference. We didn't know which direction it was going to go. So it was the first time that we might have played Dom in all 3 games. So I had a chat with Mikey leading in, and I said, listen, you might not play again this year. That didn't age well. But it's a good opportunity to watch Dom and his habits, because like you have no idea how much confidence it breeds into the team when they know he's ready to go. Like if Dom were to, forget his helmet coming out to the bench, guys would be a little nervous starting the game, or if he was skipping curfew or things like that, or not doing his routine. So I said, really, I want you to think about what people would look at you when you're a starting goalie. How do you give confidence to the rest of the team? And his habits, they really just flipped on and he's had good habits, but he made them day-to-day things that he did. I think credit to Mikey. He's always had the talent. His interviews when we did pre-draft, you could tell he's a winner. He's never talked about stats, just about winning and being part of the team. And his teammates, were very confident when he went in there. And I think it was Mike that told me that even Ty Nelson came up and he said, listen, Dom's, obviously one of my best buddies in the world, and I'm sick that he's hurt, but like the team's not worried about you. They're not. We believe in you. So Mikey said that lifted him pretty big too. Yeah. It's cool to hear those things, even from my perspective.
Yeah.
And
you get goosebumps when you tell it, because the kid it was exciting hockey. It was so much fun. Okay, I'll let you wrap it up. My last question.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a Bay Today article a number of years ago. Chris Dawson wrote about you and your first hockey card with Upper Deck. Tell us that story. And then I'll tell you the last part.
It's pretty exciting. You get your first card, and when you get a card, the Upper Deck, they want to meet with you, and they give you some money for signing. So I remember that in Buffalo for training camp, came down. I signed about 3,000 little things, $2 each. So I'm thinking, okay, just made $6,000, and I'm getting my hockey card. So we had a big box of my first hockey card. And I opened it up, and at the back, it was me on the back. It had my stats and everything. But on the front, it was not me. It was a different goalie. So it had Adam Dennis, and it was the goalie that was Adam Burkhole, who was in Buffalo's system at the time. But he had his Atlanta Thrashers pads on in the picture. And so I think I took it okay, because I was getting $6,000 anyway. So that was a nice thing. But I had a lot of these cards that were misprinted. So I don't even know if I mentioned it to the rep that this isn't me. But
so I went back. There's 3 available. I was just before you came in, I purchased one. So when I get it in, you got to sign it for me. Which I thought this would be a super collector item, $5. Now the only thing I'll say about that, Corey Perry's, his rookie card, $1.
See, that's I've always said, like, to add value to my card, that was the way to do it, because the stats probably halted there in that card too.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Well, this has been great talking to you. It gives us a little bit better insight into yourself and the battalion, and just the feel of the operation seems to be it's a lot different than the first iteration of the battalion, right? Different personalities involved. So I think you might have felt that in your opening home opener with almost 4,000 people.
Yeah.
After a big season, and you got a lot of support. You started with 2 wins. This particular podcast won't be coming out until right before the Thanksgiving game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we'll be able to promote that. Make sure you show up for the battalion's Thanksgiving game. It's always a tradition to try to not yawn through some turkey and enjoy some hockey.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And come on out to the game. And if you see me, don't be afraid to tell me your opinion, good, bad, or I do appreciate the feedback. It's we want to hear from everybody. It's North Bay's team, so we want to get it to where it needs to be.
You're doing a great job, Adam.
Thanks, Scott.
I've always felt that, and I hope you get the credit that's due. And I'll say this. there is a buzz, and you won't say it, but there is a buzz when the whole transformation took place last year and it was announced what you'd be doing. Everyone I talked to was excited about what you're about to do. No pressure, but what you're about to do, what it's going to look like. And I think you did that right out of the gate when you had the, what was it called?
We had a fan fest. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was a fantastic idea. And it was great. I'm sure the players loved it too.
Yeah, it was stressful because of the weather, but I think that speaks to the team that we have upstairs too, is we audibled quickly. We had a rain plan, and I think that, when you have a good attitude, it turns out the way that you want it to, because we ended up getting some great footage with everybody coming inside and the players in the red carpet. So it's some really cool video that we're going to be able to use and really make it bigger next year. But
last thing I'll say is go for dinner. Steve Battanti does it up nice upstairs. Always have an awesome dinner. And just head ahead of time, get dinner, go see the game. You'll have a blast of a time.
Yeah, and you know what? Steve's actually taken on a bigger role. So he's a manager of operations and business development. So I really give him such a huge credit, because he's been in the entertainment business for years. And that's one thing we understand, is there are people that come just for the hockey, but there's a lot of others that come for the community, the entertainment, and I couldn't think of anybody better to bring people in than Steve Battanti. So he's done an awesome job, and but yeah, I appreciate
Excited
that.
for the season.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us for another Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Scott Clark.
And I'm Dave Dale. Please like, share, and sign up for the newsletter. Appreciate it.
I'm Ben, podcast producer here at North Bay Echo, and the Echo Essentials newsletter is a great way to get all of the news and events that are happening in the North Bay area, and of course all the newest podcast episodes in one neat package. And it's very easy to sign up, and you can get subscribed in a few simple steps. So first, you're going to want to head on over to northbayecho.ca. While you're on the home page, you'll see some of the shows that we offer, but we want to keep scrolling down to this panel right here, and you can see there is a box to type in an email address for the Echo Essentials newsletter. So all you have to do is type in your email, make sure to check the box below. And what this will allow us to do is to send you the newsletter to your email. And of course, your info, as always, is protected by our privacy policy. Hit sign me up and you are good to go. You are officially a subscriber of the Echo Essentials newsletter. If you do want to check out our past newsletters as well, you can hit the past newsletter option to go right there, or you can just hit the newsletter tab at the top of the page. And now you can see all of the past newsletters that have been published. And there you have it. Super easy and simple. And now every Tuesday and Thursday, you will get Echo Essentials right to your inbox.